I never thought a simple afternoon at home could turn into the kind of nightmare or thrill that would change my life forever. My name is Alex, and I've always been complicated. Growing up, I tried to blend in, keep my hobbies private, and maintain the image of a typical teenage boy. But beneath the surface, there was always a part of me that longed to explore a softer, more delicate side, a side I had only dared to indulge in secret. It wasn't a passion at first, not really. It started with curiosity. I would try on my sister's old clothes when she wasn't around, experiment with makeup from her stash, and marvel at the reflection in the mirror. At first, it was fun, a harmless way to escape the pressures of school and teenage awkwardness. But over time, the thrill became something more. It became a part of me. A secret that, if anyone discovered, could destroy the carefully constructed life I had outside my bedroom. I was 17, balancing school, part-time work at a local cafe, and a slowly developing relationship with my girlfriend, Emma. She was sweet, perceptive, and supportive in ways I hadn't expected. But there were boundaries I dared not cross. Emma didn't know about my experiments with crossdressing, and the thought of revealing my secret filled me with both fear and excitement. I wanted to trust her, but I couldn't risk the judgment, the awkwardness, or the possible rejection. The house was quiet that afternoon. My mom was rummaging through the closet, muttering under her breath as she sorted through old boxes. She always had a knack for organization, or maybe it was control. Sometimes it was hard to tell the difference. She paused suddenly, holding up a delicate, pastel-colored dress. "Alex," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "I think you should wear this." I froze. The words were simple, almost mundane, but the implications sent a jolt through my body. My mind raced. "Wear this?" I asked, trying to mask the nervous excitement I felt. "Yes," she replied, holding the dress up against me as if testing the fit. "You'd look perfect in it. It suits you more than anyone else." I wanted to laugh, to say she was joking, but there was no hint of humor in her eyes. My pulse quickened as I realized this wasn't a casual suggestion. This was an instruction. And I had a choice: defy her or comply. Part of me wanted to run, to retreat to my room and bury myself in the safety of my old clothes. But another part, the part one had always hidden even from myself, was intrigued. There was a thrill in the idea, a danger in the forbidden. My mom had never shown this side of herself before, never pushed me into anything like this. And yet, here she was, expecting me to comply. I followed her to my room, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The dress was soft, almost silky to the touch, and delicate lace edged the hem. It smelled faintly of lavender and old perfume, my mom's scent, somehow imprinted into the fabric. As I held it up against my chest, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Even before putting it on, I could see the potential. The reflection staring back was both familiar and foreign, a promise of transformation that made my stomach twist with excitement. Emma's face popped into my mind, and a pang of guilt followed immediately. How would she react if she saw me like this? Would she laugh, be confused, or judge me? I had always feared exposure, feared the loss of control over my own secret life. Yet, something about my mom's insistence made me pause. Perhaps this was a test, not just of appearance, but of trust, of willingness to embrace a hidden part of myself. With shaking hands, I slipped out of my shirt and stepped into the dress. The fabric hugged my frame differently than I expected. It was tight in some places, loose in others, but every inch accentuated a transformation I had only dared to dream about. I caught my reflection again, and my breath caught in my throat. The person staring back was beautiful, delicate, almost ethereal. My heart raced with a mix of fear, shame, and an undeniable thrill. My mom smiled, eyes sharp and approving. "Perfect," she said softly. "Exactly what I imagined." "Mom." I started, voice faltering. Words failed me, tangled in the knot of emotions twisting through my chest. "No need to explain," she interrupted gently. "Sometimes, to be perfect, we just need to follow the path laid out for us." Her words were cryptic, almost mystical, and they sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced down at the dress again, tracing the lace with my fingertips. The room seemed smaller now, charged with a new intensity. This wasn't just about clothing. It was about identity, about transformation, about stepping into a version of myself I had only secretly imagined. And yet, there was a danger lurking beneath the excitement, a suspenseful tension that made every heartbeat feel like a drum in my chest. Emma's voice echoed in my mind, a gentle reminder of the world outside my bedroom. I had responsibilities, relationships, a life that didn't include this experimental transformation. But the allure was too strong. I couldn't ignore it. My mom's eyes, steady and expectant, anchored me. The choice was mine, but the path was clear. I took a deep breath and adjusted the dress, feeling the smooth fabric against my skin. The mirror reflected not just a new look, but a new possibility. For the first time, I wondered, what if this wasn't temporary? What if the girl in the mirror was a part of me, a part one had been afraid to embrace? As I stood there, heart racing, I realized that nothing would ever be the same. The dress wasn't just clothing. It was a symbol, a doorway into an identity I had never dared explore fully. And with my mom's quiet encouragement, I felt the thrill of stepping across that threshold. The journey was just beginning. The dress clung to my body like a second skin, each movement sending shivers down my spine. My reflection in the mirror was mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time. I barely recognized the delicate girl staring back at me, soft features, smooth skin, a hint of blush on my cheeks that made my heart hammer. My mom circled me, adjusting the hem, smoothing the fabric, and tucking stray strands of hair behind my ears. Her hands were gentle but commanding, guiding me with the precision of someone who had imagined this moment for years. "You're doing wonderfully," she said, her voice calm yet carrying an authority I couldn't ignore. "Stand straight, shoulders back, chin up. Confidence makes perfection." I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Confidence felt foreign. Every instinct screamed self-preservation, reminded me of the life I'd carefully constructed: school, work, Emma, friends who knew nothing of this hidden side of me. And yet, beneath the nerves, there was an undeniable thrill. I was stepping into a persona I had longed to explore, a version of myself that had only ever existed in secret fantasies. "Mom, what if Emma sees me like this?" My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with fear. My mom paused and regarded me thoughtfully. "Then she will see the truth of who you can be. Sometimes, love requires understanding beyond appearances. But right now, this is about you and me perfecting what I've always known was possible." The words made my heart pound. There was an intensity in her gaze that both comforted and unnerved me. The line between care and control was blurred, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to step back or if I even could. With a trembling hand, I reached for the makeup she had placed on my vanity: foundation, blush, mascara, and a subtle lip gloss. My fingers hovered over the products, hesitant. I had experimented before, but never like this. Never under her watchful eyes, never with such deliberate instruction. "Go ahead," she encouraged softly. "Show me your focus. This is not a test of skill, it's a test of patience, of willingness." I began with the foundation, feeling the creamy texture against my skin. My reflection blurred under my fingers, and as I worked, I noticed small changes, a softening of my jawline, the way the light caught the contours of my face differently. Each brushstroke was both a thrill and a terror, a tangible marker of transformation. When I applied blush to my cheeks, I felt a rush of excitement. My mom's gaze was approving, her smile quiet but unmistakable. "Good," she said, stepping back. "Now the eyes. Let them speak without words." Eyeliner and mascara followed, and I marveled at the effect. My eyes appeared larger, more expressive. I felt my heartbeat quicken, a fluttering mixture of fear and exhilaration. I was becoming someone else, yet a part of me that had always been there, hidden beneath layers of self-consciousness and societal expectations. Finally, the lip gloss. My lips glistened under the light, and I caught my reflection, almost gasping. I barely recognized myself. The girl in the mirror was fragile, yet commanding, delicate, yet undeniably alive. I felt a pang of vulnerability, a fear that anyone could see through the persona and discover the person underneath. And yet, alongside that fear was a thrill I couldn't ignore. "Now," my mom said, taking my hand and leading me to the closet, the final touch. She pulled out a pair of heels, modest yet elegant, and gestured toward them. My stomach nodded. High heels had always intimidated me, the balance, the attention, the way they altered posture and presence. But these weren't just shoes. They were a symbol, a tangible representation of the transformation I was undergoing. I slipped them on, wobbled slightly, then steadied myself. My mom guided me through small steps, correcting posture, encouraging confidence. Each step felt surreal. I was lighter, taller, more deliberate in my movements. And as I walked across the room, I realized that with each stride, I was shedding layers of my old self, embracing a persona I had only ever dreamed of embodying. The doorbell rang suddenly, a jarring interruption that made my pulse spike. My mom glanced toward the sound with a subtle smile. "Perfect timing," she said. "Someone wants to see you, or rather, what you've become." I froze, fear and excitement battling within me. Emma's face immediately popped into my mind. Was it her? Could it be a neighbor, a friend, or, worse, a stranger? My pulse raced as I approached the door, adjusting the dress and smoothing the wig. When I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't Emma, but Mrs. Larkin, our neighbor, peeking in with curiosity. "Oh, Alex, I didn't expect you to look like this," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and delight. Heat flushed my cheeks. "It's, a new look," I stammered, unsure of how to explain. Mrs. Larkin's eyes twinkled. "Well, you look lovely. Your mom must be so proud." I glanced at my mom, who nodded subtly, her expression unreadable but approving. "Yes," she said softly. "This is who Alex can be." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Pride, approval, transformation, all compressed into a single moment that left me breathless. My mind raced. What did this mean for Emma? For school? For my identity? The suspense was unbearable, each unanswered question twisting in my chest like a live wire. I retreated to the living room, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor, feeling the eyes of my mom and Mrs. Larkin following my every step. The thrill of exposure mingled with fear. I was vulnerable, yet powerful, delicate, yet commanding. And the realization struck me. My life was no longer just mine. The transformation was not a secret experiment. It was a declaration, an assertion of a new identity that demanded attention. Hours passed with the tension building. My mom guided me through conversations, movements, and subtle gestures, teaching me how to embody the persona fully. Each word, each motion, each glance in the mirror reinforced the duality of who I was becoming. I felt excitement, fear, pride, and doubt all at once. I was her perfect daughter. Yes, but at what cost? By evening, I could barely recognize the room, the people, or even myself. The reflection in the mirror was now fully a part of me, yet still foreign. My mom watched with a quiet satisfaction, while I oscillated between exhilaration and apprehension. Every decision I made, every movement I practiced, was a step deeper into a world I had never fully imagined. And then, a sudden noise from the street outside, a honking car, the chatter of neighbors, reminded me of the life beyond the apartment. Emma could arrive at any moment. Friends could come by. The suspense became tangible, a weight pressing on my chest. Could I maintain the persona if the outside world intruded? Would anyone accept this new version of me? As I looked in the mirror one last time before dinner, I saw her fully, the girl I had become under my mom's guidance. The thrill of transformation pulsed through me, a mix of fear, excitement, and fragile confidence. The internal struggle was far from over, but the journey had begun. I had stepped into a world where appearance, identity, and perception collided, and there was no turning back. The evening descended, casting long shadows across the living room, and with it came a sense of inescapable tension. I could hear the faint hum of traffic outside, the occasional bark of a dog, and my own heartbeat pounding like a drum in my chest. Every sound seemed amplified, every creak of the floorboards a warning. My mom had left briefly to check on dinner, and I was alone, fully dressed, fully transformed, and fully exposed in a way that made my nerves tighten like coiled springs. I paced the room, heels clicking against the hardwood, feeling both powerful and fragile at the same time. The reflection in the mirror stared back at me, an unfamiliar girl with delicate features, long eyelashes, and lips glistening with gloss. I touched my face, tracing the contours that were so different from the boy I had been just hours ago. My stomach twisted. Could I ever go back? Could I ever explain this to Emma, to my friends, or to anyone outside this room? Then, a sudden sound froze me in place, a knock at the door. Sharp, deliberate, impossible to ignore. My heart leapt into my throat. Visitors weren't expected this late. Was it Emma? A neighbor? Someone else entirely? I hesitated, wondering whether to run, hide, or answer. Alex. The voice was low, familiar, and chilling. I froze. That voice, I didn't recognize it immediately, but the dread washed over me like a cold wave. It was Mr. Harris, my history teacher, the one who had assigned me extra credit for the student persona project. He had been oddly interested in individual expression, in exploring identity through role play and performance. And now, standing at my doorstep, he seemed to embody both authority and scrutiny. Hi. I stammered, my voice trembling. My hands fidgeted with the hem of the dress. He stepped inside before I could stop him, eyes scanning the room, then landing on me. His gaze lingered on the transformation, the delicate posture, the heels, the subtle makeup. I felt exposed, judged, and strangely validated all at once. Your project, he said, his tone measured. It seems advanced. But I wasn't expecting this level of commitment. I swallowed hard. I didn't choose it. My mom, she suggested. His eyes narrowed slightly. I see. Well, commitment is admirable. But are you sure you understand what this entails? The question sent a ripple of anxiety through me. Was this about my transformation, or about control, about the boundaries I hadn't anticipated crossing? My pulse quickened, my palms slick against the smooth fabric of the dress. Before I could answer, the phone rang, a sharp shrill that made me jump. My mom's voice echoed from the kitchen as she picked it up, calm and unflappable. Yes, I'll bring him some tea. She turned to me, giving a subtle nod. Her presence was reassuring, but also a reminder that I was still under her watchful eye. I sank onto the couch, heels clicking against the floor as I shifted nervously. Mr. Harris sat across from me, studying me like a scientist observing a specimen. Every glance, every subtle movement, heightened the tension, and I realized that my secret, my identity, my transformation, was now on display. Alex, he said finally, voice gentle but firm. What are you feeling right now? Excited? Nervous? Conflicted? I hesitated, unsure how to articulate the storm inside me. I don't know, I admitted. It's overwhelming. I feel different. I feel like someone else. He nodded thoughtfully. Transformation isn't just clothing, makeup, or posture. It's internal. It's how you perceive yourself, how others perceive you, and how you navigate that tension. But remember, it can also be dangerous. People aren't always kind to difference. A sudden noise at the window made me jump, someone outside, peering in. My heart raced. The idea of being discovered in this form, by anyone outside my controlled circle, sent a shiver down my spine. I adjusted the dress, tried to compose myself, but every fiber of my being was alert, tense, and ready to react. You're doing well, my mom's voice broke through my panic, calm as ever. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Remember, Perfection requires balance, confidence, poised, and awareness. I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. The combination of my mom's guidance and Mr. Harris's scrutiny created a cocktail of emotions: fear, exhilaration, shame, and pride that made my head spin. I felt like I was standing on a cliff, teetering between who I had been and who I was becoming. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness. My pulse leapt. The heels felt unstable under my feet, the dress constricting. I reached for the nearby table, fingers brushing against a fallen strand of my wig. Panic surged. If it fell, exposed the truth fully, I would be vulnerable, completely visible to everyone. "Relax," my mom whispered, sensing my fear. "Every imperfection can be corrected. Every moment is part of the process." I steadied myself, adjusting the wig, smoothing the dress, and taking a deep breath. But the tension didn't dissipate. The reality of my dual existence, Alex the boy, the girl in the mirror, and the expectations pressing down from both my mom and Mr. Harris, was suffocating. And then the final twist, a text from Emma. My phone buzzed on the couch. Heart hammering, I glanced at the screen. "Hey, are you home? I wanted to surprise you. Don't tell me you're busy." My breath caught. Emma could arrive any minute. The room felt impossibly small, every movement amplified. Mr. Harris noticed my hesitation. "Trouble?" he asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. The stakes had escalated beyond my control. If Emma arrived and saw me like this, I couldn't predict her reaction. Fear clashed with excitement, guilt mingled with desire, and I realized that this transformation was no longer reversible in my mind. I had stepped into a new identity, and now I had to navigate the consequences. As the minutes ticked by, I moved through the room with deliberate steps, practicing poise, adjusting the dress, and smoothing the wig. The thrill of exposure battled with the terror of discovery. Every creak, every sound outside the door, every glance in the mirror heightened the suspense. Finally, a car pulled into the driveway.
"Emma."
My heart raced, chest tight, and I realized I had seconds to decide: hide, confront, or reveal. My mom's calm presence anchored me, but the decision was mine. The suspense was unbearable. I was her perfect daughter, yes, but at what cost? I glanced at Mr. Harris, then back at the mirror. The girl I had become stared back with wide eyes, fragile but defiant. Every step I had taken, every brushstroke, every adjustment, had led to this precarious moment. The world outside my room was waiting, and I was standing on the edge, teetering between revelation and secrecy. The front door opened. Emma's cheerful voice called out, "Alex, I'm home." Time seemed to stretch. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears. The heels felt heavier, the dress tighter, the wig hotter. My pulse surged with a mix of exhilaration, dread, and anticipation. And then, the door swung open, and Emma stepped inside, her eyes bright with surprise and curiosity. "Alex, you're different," she said, her voice a mixture of amusement and confusion. I froze, the weight of every step, every decision, every transformation crashing down all at once. My mom stood behind me, calm and composed, her approving gaze sending both reassurance and pressure through me. Mr. Harris lingered in the corner, an unreadable expression on his face. I can explain," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt hollow even as they left my mouth. Emma's brow furrowed. "Explain what? Why you're like this?" I glanced at the mirror one last time, taking in the reflection that had become my identity over the past hours. The girl I had become, elegant and poised, yet vulnerable and exposed. My heart pounded as I realized there was no going back, not fully. Emma stepped closer, curiosity replaced by a hint of suspicion. "Alex, is this permanent?" Before I could answer, my mom intervened, her tone calm but firm. "Emma, this is Alex's journey. It's part of understanding who they are and embracing possibilities they might not have imagined." Emma's eyes flicked between my mom and me. I don't know what to say. A sudden noise outside, the slam of a car door, a shout from a neighbor, made me flinch. The world outside our carefully controlled space was intruding, threatening to expose my secret before I could process it fully. Every sense was heightened. My pulse raced. The heels that had once made me feel powerful now felt precarious, each step a reminder of how delicate my balance was. "Alex," my mom said softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "This is your moment. How you respond now will define everything." I swallowed hard. Should I retreat to my old identity, hide in the shadows of my past? Or should I embrace the persona I had worked so hard to create, risk exposure, and face the reactions of those I loved? Emma's gaze sharpened. "I need to understand. Is this really you? Or just a game?" The question hung in the air like a knife, slicing through my confidence. I opened my mouth, words trapped by fear, excitement, and uncertainty. My mind raced, considering every possible outcome: rejection, acceptance, confusion, or awe. Each option carried weight, and I realized that my life was now balanced on the edge of revelation. Mr. Harris cleared his throat, a subtle reminder that I was being observed, judged, measured, not just by Emma, but by someone who had a professional interest in my transformation. The suspense tightened around me like a vice. Every breath, every movement, every glance could tip the balance, exposing the delicate duality I had embraced. Then, a sudden knock at the door, a second, more insistent sound. My heart lurched. Who could it be now? Another neighbor? A friend? Someone who might expose everything I had become? Emma's eyes widened. "Alex, who is that?" My mom's expression didn't change, but her eyes glinted with a kind of secret knowledge that both comforted and terrified me. "It seems the world is eager to see the result of our work," she said softly. I glanced at the mirror, at the girl who had become me in this whirlwind of makeup, dresses, and high heels. She looked back, confident, poised, but fragile. The choice was mine: reveal myself fully, retreat to safety, or risk everything on a single step. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. Time stretched thin. Every instinct screamed for caution. Every desire pushed me toward revelation. My pulse surged, a storm of fear, thrill, and anticipation. And then, the sound of the door handle turning. Emma gasped. My mom's hand tightened briefly on my shoulder. Mr. Harris leaned forward, eyes sharp. I froze. Heart racing. Breath caught. Every possibility collided into a single, electric moment. The door creaked open, and the screen cuts to black.